All right, here we go. So back page of 6.3. I'm talking about ellipses right now. So sketch and find the vertices and foci for 8x squared plus 16y squared equals 64. And two things I want you to kind of key into right here is that first off, this looks a little bit different than what you're used to. We've so far only seen it when it's equal to 1. That's not going to be a huge problem for us. We're just going to divide everything by 64 and set it equal to 61. So we're allowed to kind of manipulate these equations and get it to the form we are comfortable with and what's going to be useful for us. The other thing is that we'll see it as we go a little bit farther in the problem. But since there's no linear terms, there's no x term and there's no y term, only x squared and y squared, our center is going to be right at the origin. And we'll see that in just a moment as we start kind of going along here. But if we divide everything by 64, then we'll have 8x squared divided by 64 plus 16y squared divided by 64 equals 1. And that's kind of where we wanted to get to. But now let's also simplify it. So 8 divided by 64, that's 1/8. So we've got x squared over 8 plus, well, 16 64ths reduces down to 1/4. So y squared over 4 equals 1. And now we're kind of in our ellipse equation with the center and our minor radius and our major radius. So here we go. Now what is our center again? It's right at 0, 0. This is x plus 0 squared and y plus 0 squared. So our origin's right there at the center. I'm going to go kind of out of order and find the vertices first. I think that's going to be a little bit easier. You can see that the denominator here on the x value is bigger. So this is going to be a horizontal elongated ellipse. It's going to be wider than it is taller. And so our a squared value there is a squared is 8. So a, that's going to be our biggest value out of the a squared plus b squared. So it's really going to be a squared is equal to, or actually it's whatever our c value, that focus squared plus the vertical axis squared, or the distance from the center to the vertical vertex squared will be equal to the distance from the center to the horizontal axis squared. It's going to be wider than it is tall. And so let's go ahead and figure out what we know. So that distance was square root of 8. That's a little bit more than 2, but not quite 3, because the square root of 9, if it was all the way to 9, that would be 3. The square root of 4, that's only 2. And so it's closer to 9 than it is to 4. So it's closer to the square root of 3. Sorry, it's closer to 3 than to 2. And I think it ends up being something right around 2.8. But if we're just sketching, we're going to be close to 3, but not quite there, and or close to -3 and close to +3, but not quite there. Your exact axis of the horizontal vertices are going to be the square root of 8, 0, and negative square root of 8, 0. And again, I think it's around 2.8 in there. That's going to be your vertices going horizontally. Your vertices vertically, well, the square root of 4, that's exactly 2, so that one's a little bit easier to graph. So 2 and 2. So that's going to be 0, 2, and 0, -2. Now we got to find our foci. So our foci are going to be, again, let's plug in the pieces we know. So our longest axis, that's the 8 squared, that's already been squared. The value itself is the square root of 8. And so the square root of 8 squared is 8 equals, and our b value is the square root of 4, or 2, and 2 squared is 4. So what we need to find is the distance to our foci. So subtract 4 from each side. We get c squared equals 4. So c equals 2. And so along our major axis out to 2 and or 2 and -2. So our foci are at 2, 0 and -2, 0. And then just kind of sketching that ellipse. Looking something like that. All right, hope that helped.